Imagine this. Masayoshi Son, a man who turned a single investment into a $200 billion tech empire, lives in a 60-square-meter apartment in Tokyo. No sprawling estate, no home theater, no guest wing, just a quiet, efficient space, barely larger than a standard American garage. And he's not alone. Japan's top CEOs, billionaires, and tech founders choose compact living, not out of frugality, but because they've figured out something most of the world hasn't. Space is not wealth. It's a liability. In a country where urban land costs 10 times more per square foot than in New York, buying big means draining your capital on taxes, maintenance, and depreciation. Meanwhile, the people who downsize quietly unlock years of compound growth. Money that would have gone to roof repairs and heating bills instead flows into stocks, overseas real estate, or silent index funds. Why would the richest among us live small? Because in Japan, freedom isn't measured in square footage, it's measured in what you don't owe. Another reason this works has less to do with culture and everything to do with math. The average Japanese home buyer spends 35% of their lifetime income on housing. In the US, it's 52%. That gap isn't accidental. Japan's property taxes alone are levied on the land value, not the structure, meaning a tiny house on a prime lot still costs less than a large one. A 70-square-meter apartment in Shinjuku, worth $600,000, carries annual property taxes under $2,000. A 180-square-meter home in the same district? Nearly $5,000. And that doesn't include utilities. 10% higher in bigger spaces or repairs. When you cut your size in half, your monthly carrying costs don't drop by half. They drop by 60% or more. That extra $1,200 a month isn't saved. It's reinvested. And over 10 years, at 7% growth, that's nearly $200,000. Not in equity. You can't touch. In assets that grow for you. Let me tell you about Akiko. She was 38, a marketing manager in Yokohama, earning 5.8 million yen a year. She lived in a 90-square-meter two-bedroom with a view of the train tracks. Rent was 130,000 yen, and she paid for it with 3 credit cards. After a panic attack tied to debt, she moved into a 45-square-meter studio down the street for 70,000 yen. No more car. No more weekend renovations. She sold her furniture, invested the cash, and started a small foreign ETF portfolio. 3 years later, she's debt-free, has $78,000 in liquid investments, and takes a 2-week trip to Portugal every year. Her friends call it deprivation. She calls it design. Her house is smaller. Her life is wider. You've been sold the idea that your home is your biggest asset. But what if it's your biggest drag? In America, people tie up 30% of their income in mortgages, insurance, and upkeep for spaces they use 20% of guest rooms that gather dust, basements that smell like mildew, yards that turn into weekend projects. In Japan, the richest aren't hoarding square footage, they're hoarding time, capital, autonomy. They've realized that wealth isn't built by owning more, but by needing less. Every room you don't maintain is a silent employee working for you. Every dollar you don't spend on repairs is a dollar earning dividends. Your home should shelter you, not own you. And when you shrink what you live in, you expand what you control. So ask yourself, what is your house really costing you? Not in dollars, but in opportunity. Not in brick and mortar, but in sleep, freedom, and future options. You don't need a larger house to live better. You need a smaller one that lets you live differently. The Japanese didn't invent minimalism. They weaponized it. And if you're still measuring wealth by the size of your footprint, you're playing the wrong game. The real win isn't in the square footage. It's in the savings you never see coming. In Japan, there's a word you won't find in any American real estate brochure: shukuso. It doesn't mean downsizing, as we think of it. Not sacrifice, not compromise. It means intentional compression. A 35 square meter apartment in Osaka isn't a tiny studio. It's a precision-engineered life hub where every drawer, wall, and fold-down table serves a purpose. The kitchen isn't small because they can't afford more. It's small because they chose not to waste energy maintaining excess. Unlike Western homes designed for appearances, walk-in closets that hold 5 sweaters, triple-car garages that store seasonal tools, Japanese compact living is optimized for efficiency, not exhibition. You don't buy space to impress neighbors. You buy space to free up capital. And here's what most outsiders miss. This isn't a trend. It's a survival strategy, shaped by decades of economic pressure. After the 1990s asset bubble collapsed, entire generations stopped treating homes as investments. Instead, they treated them as living systems, measured in utility, not square footage. Land prices in Tokyo have risen nearly 300% since 1985, while home values flatlined. That means the structure, worthless. The land, priceless. So people build smaller, lighter, cheaper homes and put the savings into bonds, dividend stocks, or private equity. A 60-year-old engineer in Fukuoka sold his 120 square meter house for 48 million yen, then bought a 30 square meter condo for 18 million yen. He pocketed 30 million yen, kept the mortgage he'd already paid off, started a small venture fund. Now his monthly passive income exceeds his former salary. Closet sizing. It's not about hardship. It's about mental clarity. Japanese households keep only what they use daily. The average person owns 75 clothing items. In the US, it's over 150 and 80% of them go unworn. In Japan, storage isn't hidden in basements. It's outsourced. Tenants pay 3,000 yen a month for a 2 square meter box in a climate-controlled facility. Why? Because keeping things at home creates clutter. Clutter creates stress. Stress reduces productivity. And productivity is the true engine of wealth. Look at Osaka's new generation of entrepreneurs. They live in 20 square meter lofts above coffee shops, walk to work, never own cars, and invest 40% of their income. Their homes are tools, not trophies. At the end of the day, shukuso isn't about giving up. It's about redirecting. You trade square footage for sovereignty. You trade maintenance for momentum. You trade the illusion of abundance for real financial autonomy. And that's why, beneath the quiet streets of Kyoto and the neon glow of Shinjuku, you'll find the most financially secure people on the planet. Not because they make more, but because they ask less of their environment and more of their future. Tokyo isn't just dense, it's vertically compressed, with 14 million people living in a city the size of Los Angeles, where every inch of land is auctioned like rare art. The math is brutal. The average home under 1,000 square feet sells for $500,000 or more. That's not a studio apartment in a struggling neighborhood. That's a standard 2-bedroom in Shinjuku, where the floor plan fits your bed, your desk, your shower, and a fold-out dining table, all on less space than most American walk-in closets. There's no room for a garage, No backyard, no basement. And that's not a design flaw. It's the only viable option left. Here's what you won't hear in American real estate ads. In Japan, the value of a house is almost entirely in the land. The structure? It depreciates faster than a new car. After 25 years, a home loses over 70% of its resale value, even if it's spotless. That's why wealthy Japanese don't buy big homes. They buy land. Then they build small, efficient, modular dwellings, designed to be replaced, not upgraded. A 50-square-meter concrete box built in 2020 might cost 50 million yen. A 100-square-meter luxury home next door, 110 million yen. But after 5 years, the bigger one's resale value drops to 55 million yen. The smaller one, still worth 47 million yen. The extra 60 million yen spent, gone, with no return. What's more, maintenance alone eats away at any illusion of affordability. In Japan, property taxes on urban land hit 1.4% annually on the assessed value of the land, not the home. Water, electricity, and heating, proportional to square footage. A 70-square-meter unit pays 40% less in utilities than its 120-square-meter neighbor. Every extra meter means extra bills, extra cleaning, extra repair calls. And in a country where labor costs for plumbers, electricians, and movers are among the highest in the world, those costs compound fast. A single bathroom renovation? 1.2 million yen. A full kitchen upgrade? Over 2 million yen. Who can afford that without sinking into debt? Then there's the hidden burden. Inheritance. Japan's estate tax kicks in at 30 million yen in net worth, and it escalates sharply. Large homes trigger massive tax bills, sometimes forcing families to sell. But a compact apartment worth 40 million yen, with careful estate planning, it can be passed on with minimal impact. That's why the most financially disciplined families in Japan don't leave mansions. They leave cash. They leave investments. They leave freedom. And the way they get there? By never buying more space than they need, and by understanding deeply that the most valuable asset isn't your house, it's your ability to invest the difference. This isn't about sacrifice, it's about strategy. You're not trading comfort. You're trading a cost center for a capital generator. In Tokyo, you don't own your home, you lease your right to live efficiently. And the people who master that equation, they're not waiting for retirement. They're already living it. The quiet efficiency of Japanese compact living didn't emerge from a spreadsheet. It was forged in silence, after war, after loss, after a nation had to rebuild with nothing but the raw materials of resilience. Post-WW2, Japan didn't have the luxury of excess. Homes were constructed from salvaged timber, hinoki wood, and paper-thin walls. What survived wasn't grandeur, it was function. And in that scarcity, a philosophy took root. Not every space needs to be full to be whole. Zen Buddhism had already planted the seed centuries before. Impermanence, simplicity, the beauty of an unadorned cup, a single brushstroke, a crack in the glaze, that's wabi-sabi, not poverty, not deprivation, not an aesthetic, a truth. In Japan, a home isn't a museum of belongings. It's a vessel for presence. A 20-square-meter apartment in Kyoto might have a single tatami mat where you sleep, sit, and meditate. A sliding shoji door separates kitchen from living space by seconds, not rooms. There's no closet, just a low, open chest with perfectly folded clothes, arranged by season and frequency of use. No clutter, No need for storage bins. No hidden basements full of holiday decorations collecting mold. Instead, there's space to breathe, to think, to move, and that space isn't lost. It's reclaimed. For mental clarity, for quiet mornings with tea, for walks along the Kamigawa River instead of Sunday yard work. This mindset didn't vanish with economic recovery. It deepened. A 32-year-old graphic designer in Nagoya earns 6 million yen a year. She owns a 38-square-meter apartment. No TV, no dishwasher, no car, but she books 3 international trips a year, takes pottery classes on Sundays, and contributes to a community garden. Her friends in the U.S. spend $15,000 on a kitchen renovation. She spends $1,200 on a ceramic tea set made by a local artisan and feels richer. Her home isn't a symbol of status. It's a framework for choice. Every possession she keeps has been chosen, not accumulated. Every square foot serves a rhythm, not a repertoire. What's startling isn't how little they own. It's how much they gain. People who live this way report lower stress, higher satisfaction, and greater financial flexibility than their American counterparts with twice the space. They don't fixate on what's missing. They optimize for what matters. Their wealth isn't measured in square footage. It's measured in time, in peace, in the quiet confidence of knowing their home doesn't own them. In a world screaming for more, Japan whispers, "You're already whole. You just need to let go of the excess to feel it." Takashi was 36, a mid-level finance analyst at a Tokyo bank, earning 6.8 million yen a year. He lived in a 100-square-meter 2-bedroom apartment in Setagaya, spacious by local standards but draining. Rent 140,000 yen. Utilities 22,000 yen. Maintenance fees and property tax another 18,000 yen. That's 180,000 yen a month, over 30% of his take-home pay, just to live in a space he barely used. His big living room hosted weekly Netflix marathons. His guest room held 5 unsent birthday cards and a treadmill he bought in 2019. He never asked why it felt so heavy, until the day he opened his bank statement and saw he'd saved just 120,000 yen in 2 years. It wasn't guilt that pushed him. It was exhaustion. One weekend, he vacuumed the same floor for the 3rd time in a week. He realized he was working for his house, not the other way around. So he listed everything he owned, tagged what he used, and discarded the rest. He sold his sofa, his piano, even his oversized TV. Then he moved, 2 blocks away. A 50-square-meter 1-room unit with sliding panels, a merged kitchen living space, and a tiny balcony where he grows herbs. Rent 84,000 yen. That's a 56,000 yen monthly drop. Plus property fees halved. Utilities dropped by 38%. He cleared 200,000 yen each month. Not in income, in liberation. He didn't blow it. He didn't take a vacation to Bali. He didn't buy a new phone. He opened a low-fee, tax-advantage investment account. He automated 150,000 yen monthly into a Japan-wide ETF fund, tracking the Nikkei 225 at 7% average growth. That's over 37 million yen in 10 years. Not with a raise, not with a side hustle, with less space. And the shift wasn't financial alone. It was psychological. He stopped checking real estate listings every Sunday. He stopped comparing his life to Instagram homes on Lake Biwa. He started reading, started walking, started talking to neighbors. He joined a local book club that met in a tiny coffee shop with no Wi-Fi. He felt lighter, not because he owned less, but because he had more room inside. No wonder Japan's median savings rate among people under 40 rose from 8% to 23% in 5 years, according to the Cabinet Office. These aren't hoarders, they're liberators. Takashi still works the same hours, still wears the same suit, but at night he sits on his tatami floor, sipping matcha, watching the city lights. He doesn't need a bigger apartment to feel full anymore. He just needed to stop pretending he did. Let's break this down. No fluff, just numbers. Because this isn't about feeling good, it's about getting rich. A typical Japanese home buyer in Tokyo purchases a 100 square meter apartment for 60 million yen. They take out a 35-year mortgage at 1.5% interest. Monthly payment, approximately 190,000 yen. Over the life of the loan, they'll pay over 80 million yen total, 20 million yen in interest alone. Now compare that to someone who buys a 50 square meter unit for 30 million yen. Same interest rate, same term. Monthly payment, 95,000 yen. Total paid over 35 years, 40 million yen. That's 40 million yen in savings, just from having the home size. But the real win isn't the mortgage, it's what happens after. Utilities, electricity, gas, water, drop by nearly 30%. A 100 square meter space consumes 18,000 yen a month in energy. A 50 square meter one, 12,500 yen. That's 5,500 yen saved every month. Property tax. In urban Japan, it's calculated on land value, and a smaller structure means lower assessed value. If your property tax was 50,000 yen a year on the big unit, it's closer to 22,000 yen on the compact one, another 28,000 yen annually. Add to that lower maintenance fees, reduced cleaning costs, fewer repairs, and you're looking at over 25,000 yen more in monthly cash flow. Now, take that extra 200,000 yen a month, the same amount Takashi freed up, and invest it, not in speculative crypto, not in a second car, in a low-cost broad market index fund with an average annual return of 5%. Don't think in years, think in compounding. In 10 years, you've invested 24 million yen. Your portfolio is worth over 33 million yen. In 20 years, you've put in around 48 million, and the fund, worth 104 million yen. That's not a dream, that's arithmetic. And it happens only if you stop spending on space you don't need. You don't need to earn more, you just need to stop pouring money into a non-performing asset that depreciates the moment you sign the lease. A larger home isn't wealth. It's a slow leak. Every square foot you eliminate is a bucket you pull out of the water. The Japanese don't think of downsizing as a cutback. They see it as a financial lever. And when you pull it right, when you trade a 100 square meter burden for a 50 square meter freedom, you're not just saving money, you're unlocking exponential growth. The house you don't buy becomes the retirement you never planned on. The freedom you didn't know you were missing was sitting in your landlord's office, waiting for someone smart enough to stop paying for air. Before downsizing, most Japanese savers are stuck in a quiet trap. They own a home, but they don't own their future. They've spent decades paying down a mortgage on a depreciating asset, watching their retirement accounts stagnate at 5 yen million or less. Their portfolio, a single savings account at the local bank, earning 0.01%, with a side of guilt every time they consider spending on anything but bills. But the moment they shrink their living space, everything changes. The money they stopped pouring into rent, taxes, and upkeep doesn't vanish. It migrates, directed not to a new couch or a weekend getaway, but into the quiet engines of wealth, stocks, ETFs, foreign bonds. Meet Haruko, 58, a former school administrator in Osaka. She sold her 85 square meter house for 42 million yen, bought a 35 square meter condo for 19 million yen, and invested the 23 million yen difference. She didn't buy gold. She didn't speculate in crypto. She opened a NISA account, Japan's tax-free investment scheme, and allocated 60% to a low-cost domestic ETF tracking the Topix index, 30% to global equity funds, and 10% to sustainable bonds. 3 years later, her portfolio is worth 31 million yen. She doesn't work. She doesn't need to. Her passive income covers her living expenses, travel, and her grandson's college fund. That's the pattern. Downsizers in Japan are 3.7 times more likely than non-downsizers to hold diversified investment portfolios, according to Japan's Financial Services Agency. Why? Because without a massive monthly mortgage, they have room to think long-term. They're not scrambling to cover repairs. They're not renovating kitchens to impress neighbors. They're watching dividend yields climb. They're rebalancing annually. They're sending money into U.S. index funds, German bond ETFs, even Singapore REITs, assets their parents never dared touch. Consider Mr. Tanaka, now 72, who downsized at 55. He moved from a 2-story suburban home to a compact unit in Sendai with a view of Mount Zhao. He sold his house for 68 million yen, bought his new space for 25 million yen, and invested the rest. He didn't retire. He became a passive investor. His portfolio now earns 1.8 million yen annually in dividends and interest. Last year, he took his wife to Argentina for 3 weeks. The year before, he funded a scholarship for a local student. He doesn't call it generosity, he calls it posture. I didn't wait for luck, he says. I rearranged my life so luck could find me. This isn't fringe. It's mainstream. In Japan, over 40% of retirees under 70 now rely less on pensions and more on investment income, up from 12% in 2010. Their homes didn't spoil their futures. They set them free. You don't need to get rich to build wealth. You just need to stop financing a life you never asked for. And once you do, the money you once surrendered to bricks and mortar begins to work. Not for you, but with you, year after year, silently compounding, quietly multiplying. The home you give up becomes the legacy you build. In America, your home isn't just where you live. It's your identity, your trophy, your status symbol. You buy big because this is what we do. A 500 square foot house with a 2-car garage, a finished basement, a screened porch, and a landscaped yard comes with a price tag of $500,000 or more, and the cost doesn't stop at closing. Property taxes alone can hit $7,000 a year. Insurance, $1,800. Utilities, $300 a month, just to heat and cool space you rarely use. Add in lawn care, HVAC maintenance, Christmas light installation, and the guilt of unused rooms, and suddenly 40% of your take-home pay is vanishing into bricks and mortar. Most families don't realize they've traded financial freedom for an aesthetic they can't afford. Now look at Japan. The average household spends just 16% of income on housing. The rest goes into bank accounts, ETFs, retirement funds, even overseas assets. A Japanese couple in their 40s lives in a 55 square meter unit. They pay 80,000 yen a month in rent and property fees. Their utility bill, 10,000 yen. They own a car? No. They own a diversified portfolio, worth 32 million yen? Yes. Their net worth? 2.3 times higher than the American median for their age group, despite earning 30% less. They didn't win the lottery. They just stopped investing in large, bundone, unproductive assets. The data doesn't lie. The Bank of Japan reports that households practicing downsizing save 25–30% more annually than those clinging to large homes. In the U.S., the median household net worth for families under 35 is $12,000. In Japan, it's over $87,000. The difference isn't income, it's intention. Americans build equity in homes that shrink in value. Japanese build equity in portfolios that grow. One is a liability. The other is leverage. Why do we call downsizing a sacrifice? Because we've been taught to confuse space with worth. But what if your home's real purpose isn't to impress, it's to liberate? What if the quiet life in a small apartment isn't a compromise, but a calculated trade? Floorboards for freedom, square feet for savings. The numbers don't care about aesthetics, they only care about compounding. And right now, the Japanese aren't just living differently, they're winning economically, because they stopped asking how big and started asking how much. Start here. Don't think about moving yet. Think about using. Walk through every room in your home and ask, when did I last use this? That unused gym equipment in the corner? The guest bedroom holding 10 years of holiday decorations? That's not storage. That's financial leakage. The Japanese don't declutter for aesthetics. They do it to reveal what's truly necessary and cut the rest. Take Marie Kondo's method seriously. Hold each item. If it doesn't spark joy or serve a function, let it go. Not donate. Not store. Sell that TV you never watch. Flip it. That second car. List it. That oversized closet full of clothes you haven't worn since 2019. Liquidate. You'll be surprised how quickly you can clear $15,000, $30,000 in assets you didn't realize you were hiding. Next, model your ideal space, not by square footage but by function. How many people live here? How often do you cook? Do you work from home? A 700 square foot apartment can comfortably hold 2 people, a home office, and a guest corner with a pull-out sofa. No extra rooms needed. Search for micro-living communities in your city. Look at ADUs, co-living spaces, or converted industrial lofts. Many U.S. cities now allow accessory dwelling units on single-family lots. Rent one out. Live in it yourself. Save on mortgage. Gain cash flow. Then track your savings. Use a simple spreadsheet or app like YNAB. Let's say you're currently spending $2,500 a month on housing. If you downsize to a space costing $1,400, you've freed up $1,100. Instead of treating it as extra, assign it 50% to high-yield savings, 30% to an index fund, 20% to a travel fund. That's not a splurge. That's infrastructure. In 12 months, you've reinvested $13,200. In 5 years, over $75,000. More than most people save on entire careers. Beware the emotional traps, especially nostalgia. That heirloom chest, maybe keep it, But the cabinet your dad repaired in '98? It's not memory. It's mass. Don't let guilt drive decisions. Also, don't underestimate moving costs. Plan ahead, factor in fees, deposit, and 1 month's rent in advance, and never downsize into a space so tiny you can't sleep, cook, or breathe. Balance is key. This isn't about living like a monk. It's about designing a home that supports your goals, not drains them. You don't need to live in Tokyo to do this. You just need to understand. Wealth isn't in the size of your walls. It's in the size of your options. And every square foot you stop paying for is one more step toward the life you didn't know you could afford. Downsizing in Japan isn't about living smaller. It's about thinking bigger. It's the quiet rebellion against the lie that wealth is measured in square footage. It's the collision of ancient wisdom and ruthless math. Wabi-sabi meets compound interest. Land scarcity meets investment discipline. When you shrink your home, you don't lose freedom. You unlock it. The money saved on rent, taxes, and maintenance isn't gone. It's working in ETFs, in bonds, in foreign assets, in the quiet confidence of knowing your future isn't tied to a mortgage. You don't need to move to Tokyo to do this. You just need to look at your own walls and ask what they're costing you, not what they're showing the world. Audit your space today. Sell the unused. Reduce the excess. Reallocate the savings with intention. Even a 20% reduction in housing costs can generate over $100,000 in additional wealth within a decade. That's not luck. That's strategy. The richest among us aren't the ones with the biggest houses. They're the ones who stopped confusing space with security. As the Japanese saying goes, a full house is heavy, a clear one is light, and the lightest things rise highest. Your home shouldn't weigh you down. It should lift you up. Start small, think long, and let your savings, not your square footage, define your legacy.